September 26th, 1874. Palo Duro Canyon, Texas Panhandle. The air, thick with the pre-dawn chill of the high plains, carries the scent of cedar, damp earth, and the smoke from 1,000 sleeping cook fires. Down in the canyon's deep belly, hidden from the vast, star-dusted emptiness of the Llano Estacado, the world is safe. Here, nestled along the prairie dog town fork of the Red River, are the last free bands of the Kiowa, the Comanche, and the Cheyenne. It is a sanctuary carved by water and time, its sheer red rock walls a fortress against the world. For a 10-year-old Kiowa boy named Tau-ankia, which means sitting in the saddle, it is the only world that has ever mattered. He is curled in a buffalo robe inside his family's lodge, the rhythmic breathing of his mother and younger sister, a soft counterpoint to the distant nicker of a pony. His father and the other men are sleeping the deep sleep of the confident, their weapons wrapped in buckskin beside them, their minds at ease in this final, impenetrable refuge. But something is wrong, a disturbance in the ancient rhythm of the canyon. It isn't a sound, not yet. It's a feeling, a tremor in the earth, a wrongness in the air that prickles the skin. Tau-ankia's eyes open in the darkness. He slips from the robe, his bare feet silent on the hard-packed dirt floor. Outside, the first hint of gray is touching the eastern rim of the canyon, outlining the jagged silhouette of the cap rock far above. The village is a sprawling city of hide lodges, a constellation of conical shadows against the canyon floor. The great pony herd, more than 1,400 strong, shifts and murmurs in the meadows along the river. This is the people's wealth, their power, their legs. Tau-ankia can feel their restlessness. He looks up, his gaze tracing the steep, treacherous path that leads to the world above, and he sees it. A flicker of movement, then another. Not a coyote, not a deer. It is the wrong shape, the wrong color against the red rock. It is blue. A single gunshot cracks the morning open. It is a sharp, alien sound, a sound of brass and chemistry, not of sinew and wood. It echoes off the canyon walls, multiplying into a rolling thunder that shatters the peace. Then comes the deluge, a cascade of blue-coated soldiers, their forms dark and menacing as they scramble down the impossibly steep trail. They are like ants pouring into a hive, relentless and numberless. Behind them, Tonkawa and Apache scouts, their hated enemies, move with a terrifying familiarity, pointing out the best routes, their faces grim masks of vengeance. This is Colonel Reynold S. Mackenzie's 4th Cavalry, the iron fist of the U.S. Army, and they have found the unfindable. The shout goes up, a cry of alarm that rips through the lodges. Tavaibo, Tavaibo, the white men. Men burst from their teepees, grabbing rifles, bows, anything. They are warriors, but they are caught in their sleep, their families tangled around their legs. The soldiers are already at the edge of the encampment, their carbines spitting fire and smoke. The air fills with the screams of women and children, the war cries of the men, the thunder of hooves, and the incessant, deafening crackle of gunfire. Tau-ankia's father shoves a bow into his hands. "To the rocks!" he yells, his voice raw. He pushes Tau-ankia and his mother toward the back of the lodge. "Go, now!" He turns back, a Winchester rifle in his hands, a final, defiant figure framed in the lodge opening against a backdrop of chaos and fire. Tau-ankia grabs his sister's hand and pulls her, stumbling out into the maelstrom. The village is a nightmare. Lodges are already burning, the orange flames licking at the painted histories on their hides, consuming worlds. Riderless ponies scream and bolt through the camp, their eyes wide with terror. Soldiers on foot move methodically, firing, reloading, firing again. Their faces are pale, bearded, and devoid of emotion, like men chopping wood. He sees his friend, a boy named Pao Te, fall with a soft grunt, a dark stain spreading on his chest. There is no time to think, no time to mourn. There is only the desperate animal instinct to run. His mother is a shield, her body half covering them as she shoves them toward the jumble of rocks and cedar at the base of the canyon wall. Bullets whine past them like angry insects. A cavalryman on a huge bay horse looms over them, his face red, his mouth a black hole of shouting. He levels a pistol. Tau-ankia's mother screams and throws herself in front of her children. The pistol bucks, and the world dissolves into smoke and a sound that rips through Tau-ankia's soul. He falls backwards, his sister tumbling with him. When he looks up, his mother is on the ground, a stillness about her that is more terrifying than any scream. The cavalryman is already riding on, his attention on another target. Tau-ankia crawls to his mother, his hands touching her face, but her eyes are open and see nothing. The world has ended. The fight is brief, brutal, and one-sided. The warriors, hopelessly outnumbered and outmaneuvered, are forced back, fighting a desperate rear-guard action to allow the women and children to escape. But there is nowhere to go. Soldiers are swarming the canyon floor. Tau-ankia huddles with his sister behind a rock, the small bow useless in his hands. He watches as the soldiers round up the women and children, their faces streaked with tears and dirt. He sees the great chief Guipago, lone wolf, his face a mask of stone, being led away. He sees the lifeblood of his people, the great horse herd, being driven together by yelling troopers. He watches Colonel Mackenzie, a man with a hard, intelligent face and a missing finger, direct the battle with cold precision. The fighting dies down, replaced by the sounds of weeping and the guttural shouts of the soldiers. Tau-ankia and his sister are found, dragged from their hiding place by a corporal with tired eyes and rough hands. They are shoved into a growing crowd of captives. He looks for his father, but he is gone, vanished, dead, or escaped up the canyon walls to fight another day. He doesn't know. He is alone, a 10-year-old boy whose universe has been extinguished in the space of a single sunrise. The soldiers move through the village, gathering everything of value and piling the rest, the buffalo robes, the winter supplies, the sacred medicine bundles, into massive heaps. They put the torch to it all. The smoke billows up, a thick, greasy column that fills the canyon, a funeral pyre for a way of life. But the worst is yet to come. Mackenzie knows he cannot take over 1,000 ponies with him. He gives an order. The sound of carbine fire begins again, methodical, rhythmic, and unending. For hours, the soldiers shoot the horses. The pride of the plains, the spirit of the people, slaughtered in the grass where they grazed. The sound of it, the endless percussive death, is a hammer that drives a spike of ice into Tau-ankia's heart. He closes his eyes, but he can still hear it. He will hear it for the rest of his life. As the sun begins to set, casting long, bloody shadows across the canyon, the long march out begins. Tau-ankia, now just a number in a column of defeated people, is forced to walk past the mountain of dead and dying horses, their bodies bloating in the heat. He looks up at the rim of the canyon, at the endless blue of the sky over the Llano Estacado. The world he knew is below him, a smoldering ruin filled with ghosts. Ahead of him lies the world of the Tavaibo, a world of forts and fences, of iron and orders. He doesn't know its name. He only knows it is the place where his life ended, and something else, something terrifying and unknown, is about to begin. He is a captive, a piece of property. His name is gone, his family is gone, his world is gone. All he has left is the memory of the smoke and the terrible, echoing sound of the guns.
The journey to Fort Sill is a blur of dust, grief, and exhaustion. For 3 days, the column of captives snakes its way north out of the canyon country and onto the open plains of Indian Territory. The land itself seems to mourn with them, the autumn grasses bleached pale and brittle under a sun that offers no warmth. Tau-ankia walks, his small legs aching with a fatigue that goes bone deep. He holds his sister's hand, a silent, desperate promise to what little family he has left. Around them, the women weep quietly, a continuous, heartbreaking murmur that is the only music on the march. The men, their faces shuttered and grim, walk with a forced straightness, their pride a fragile armor against the humiliation of their defeat. They are surrounded by the blue-coated cavalry, who ride with a casual vigilance, their carbines held across their saddles, their faces ruddy with sun and wind. They are not cruel, not actively. They are simply indifferent, like men herding cattle. They offer hard biscuits and brackish water from canteens, sustenance without comfort. Tau-ankia learns the first words of the new language, not from a teacher, but from the shouted commands that punctuate their days. Halt, march, water. They're words like stones, hard and imperative. He watches the soldiers, studying them with the keen, silent observation of a boy raised to hunt. He notes the way they care for their horses, their efficiency in making camp, the strange rituals of their salutes and drills. He sees the stark difference between the officers, with their tailored uniforms and confident air, and the enlisted men, who seem as weary and trapped by their blue wool coats as the captives are by their grief. He watches Colonel Mackenzie, the man they call Bad Hand because of his mangled right hand. He rides at the head of the column, a remote, focused figure. He rarely speaks to the captives, but Tau-ankia feels his gaze sweep over them, a gaze that is not hateful, but analytical, like a man assessing a problem that he has solved. On the third day, the fort appears on the horizon. It is not part of the land, it is an imposition upon it. A series of long, low buildings made of cut stone and wood, arranged in unnervingly perfect lines, all contained within a vast, cleared space that feels like a wound on the prairie. There are no curves, no organic shapes that follow the flow of a creek or the shelter of a hill. There are only straight lines and right angles. A flagpole pierces the sky, and from it hangs a flag of red, white, and blue, its colors so sharp they hurt the eyes. As they pass through the gates, a new kind of despair settles over Tau-ankia. The canyon was a prison of rock, but it was their rock. This place is a cage built by alien hands. The sounds are wrong. The clang of a blacksmith's hammer, the sharp blast of a bugle, the rumble of wagon wheels on a gravel road. The smells are wrong. Coal smoke, lye soap, manure piled in neat heaps. They're herded into a dusty corral, like the ponies they no longer have. Army doctors, smelling of whiskey and carbolic acid, move among them, prodding and inspecting them for disease. Their names are taken, or rather attempted. The harried quartermaster, a man with a thick mustache and a thicker ledger book, gives up trying to write down the Kiowa names. He starts pointing. You, John. You, Sam. You, Bill. When he gets to Tau-ankia, he pauses. The boy's defiant stare, his straight back, seems to catch the man's attention for a moment. Got a fire in him, the quartermaster mutters to a sergeant. We'll call him Archer. Looks like he could use a bow. And just like that, Tau-ankia is gone. He is Archer, a name that means nothing, a label tied to a piece of government property. The days that follow are a systematic dismantling of everything he is. He and the other children are separated from the adults. His sister is taken away to a different building, and the brief, frantic moment of her hand being pulled from his is another kind of death. He is stripped of his buckskin clothes. They're thrown onto a fire. His long hair, carefully braided by his mother every morning of his life, a repository of story and identity, is hacked off with rough shears. He feels the cold iron scrape against his scalp, and as the black locks fall to the dusty floor, he feels a part of his spirit being shorn away with them. He is scrubbed raw with harsh soap and doused in kerosene to kill lice. Then he is forced into canvas trousers and a scratchy wool shirt, clothes that bind and chafe, that smell of dye and dust. He is now a caricature, a little brown boy dressed in a white man's costume. He is taken to a long, drafty building, a barracks, he later learns, and assigned a cot in a row of identical cots. There is no privacy, no family, no warmth, just a thin blanket and the quiet sobbings of other stolen children in the dark. Their education begins immediately. It is an education in erasure. They are forbidden to speak Kiowa. A slap from a switch is the swift punishment for any word uttered in their mother tongue. They are taught English by a stern missionary woman with a pinched face and a belief that she is saving their heathen souls. They learn the alphabet, the Lord's Prayer, and the names of the presidents. They learn that their own history, the stories of the great chiefs and the medicine makers, is pagan superstition. They learn that their people are savages, and their only hope for salvation lies in becoming as much like their captors as possible. Archer resists, not openly. He is smart enough to see the futility of that. The older boys who fight back are beaten or locked in a dark shed. Archer's resistance is internal, a stubborn, silent refusal to forget. At night, under his thin blanket, he recites the names of his family in his mind. He pictures the painted designs on his father's shield. He remembers the feel of a pony's warm back beneath him, the taste of roasted buffalo hump, the sound of the drum at a twilight dance. He holds on to these memories like sacred objects, polishing them in the darkness, keeping them safe from the relentless assault of this new world. But survival demands adaptation. He's a quick study. He learns the new language faster than the others, his mind sharp and observant. He learns the routines of the fort, the bugle calls that mark the hours, the rigid schedule of meals and lessons and chores. He learns to read the moods of the soldiers, to know which ones were cruel, which ones were indifferent, and which ones, on rare occasions, possessed a flicker of kindness. One of these is a grizzled old sergeant named Fitzpatrick, a man with a limp from an old arrow wound and a surprising gentleness. He's in charge of the stables, and he takes a liking to the quiet, watchful boy. He sees something in Archer that isn't broken. He puts him to work, mucking out stalls, grooming the cavalry mounts. For Archer, the stables are a haven. The smell of the horses is familiar, a link to his past. He has a natural gift with them. The most skittish, difficult animals grow calm under his touch. They learn their language of flattened ears and swishing tails, a language far more honest than the one being forced on him in the classroom. Fitzpatrick teaches him how to care for them the army way, how to groom them, how to spot an injury, how to properly cinch a McClellan saddle. He teaches him knots and how to mend leather. He speaks to Archer not as a savage child, but as a young apprentice. And in doing so, he gives Archer something he desperately needs: a sense of purpose, a skill that has value in this new, incomprehensible world. Archer learns his lessons well, both in the classroom and in the stables. He learns to speak English without an accent. He learns to write a neat, legible hand. He learns to handle a currycomb and a cavalry horse. But with every new skill he acquires, a question grows in the silent core of his being. Who is he becoming? Is Tau-ankia dying, and is Archer taking his place? Or is he forging a new person altogether? A person who can walk in this world of straight lines without forgetting the memory of the circle, the shape of the lodge, the horizon, and the cycle of the seasons. He does not have an answer. He only knows that to survive, he must learn, he must watch, and he must wait.
Years pass. The seasons turn over Fort Sill, marked not by the migration of the buffalo, but by the U.S. Army's fiscal calendar. The boy called Archer grows into a youth. The softness of childhood burns away, replaced by the lean, hard muscle of adolescence spent working in the stables and on the drill grounds. He is no longer a captive child, but an anomaly, a fixture of the fort who belongs to no one and nowhere. He is too old for the missionary school, too young to be a soldier, and too assimilated to be returned to his people, who are now confined to the reservation just miles away, a world he can see but cannot touch. He exists in a limbo between two collapsing universes. His face takes on the quiet, watchful planes of his ancestors, but his eyes hold a new kind of knowledge, a fluency in the ways of the bluecoats. He can name every part of a Springfield carbine, predict the weather by the ache in Sergeant Fitzpatrick's leg, and understand the subtle hierarchies of rank from a corporal to a colonel. He speaks two languages perfectly, and more importantly, he thinks in two worlds. He understands the Kiowa concept of power, which flows from spiritual vision and personal bravery, and he understands the American concept of power, which is built on supply lines, discipline, and overwhelming firepower. This unique duality does not go unnoticed. Colonel Mackenzie, now a general and the commander of the fort, has kept a distant but steady eye on the boy he captured in the canyon. He is a man who wastes nothing, least of all a potential asset. He sees in Archer not a vanquished foe, but a tool of unparalleled sharpness. Here is a young man with the ingrained fieldcraft of a plains warrior and the discipline of a soldier. He knows the land not as an adversary to be conquered, but as a living thing to be read. He knows the secret places, the hidden springs, the subtle shifts in terrain that are invisible to the West Point-trained officer staring at a paper map. Mackenzie begins to take a more direct interest in Archer's education. He summons the youth to his office, a Spartan room filled with maps and leather-bound books. The encounters are brief, almost clinical. Mackenzie asks him questions, not about Kiowa beliefs or the trauma of his past. Such things are irrelevant to the general, but about the land. If you were to take a company from here to the headwaters of the Peace River in the dry season, where would you find water on the third day? Mackenzie would ask, pointing a scarred finger at a map. Archer, looking at the topographical lines, would close his eyes for a moment, accessing a different kind of map, one drawn in his mind from the stories of his elders and the deep, instinctive knowledge of his blood. He would point not to a river marked on the map, but to an unassuming stretch of broken country. Here, he would say quietly, there are cottonwoods in this draw. The ground is low. Even if the creek bed is dry, you dig 2 feet, the water will be there. Sweet water. Mackenzie would listen, his expression unreadable, and dismiss him. But the next week, he would send a patrol to that exact spot, and the report would come back confirming the youth's claim. The general begins to cultivate his tool. He has Archer work with the Army's topographical engineers. The young Kiowa learns to read their maps, to use a compass and a sextant, but more often, he is the one teaching them. He shows them how a certain type of wildflower only grows in soil with subsurface moisture, how the flight patterns of birds at dusk can lead to a hidden waterhole, how the texture of the dirt can tell you if a large group of horsemen passed by a day ago or a week. He learns to translate his intuitive understanding of the natural world into the precise, logistical language the Army requires. He can tell them not just that there is water, but how many gallons it might yield, and whether it's enough for a company of men and their mounts. He is given more freedom. He is allowed to ride out from the fort, sometimes with a small patrol, sometimes alone. These solo journeys are his salvation. Out on the vast, open prairie, under the immense sky, the tight knot of tension in his chest loosens. He can breathe again. He rediscovers the silent language of the wind and the grass. He finds the old trails, some of them centuries old, worn into the land by his own people.
He visits the sites of old camps, finding teepee rings overgrown with grass, a silent testament to the world that was lost. On these rides, he is not Archer, the fort orphan. He is Tau-ankia, son of the plains, moving through his homeland. He also begins to interact with the Army's official scouts, the grizzlied Tonkawas and Apaches who had helped guide Mackenzie to the canyon years ago. At first, they are wary of him. He's Kiowa, their traditional enemy. He is also a product of the fort, a made man, not born to the life of a scout in the old way. But they see his skill. They watch him track a single unshod pony across miles of hard-pan clay. They see him read a set of signs they had missed. Respect in their world is not given. It is earned through competence. Slowly they begin to accept him, to share their knowledge. From them he learns the art of subterfuge, of reading the enemy's mind. He learns how to set a false trail, how to move unseen through hostile territory, how to survive for a week on a pouch of dried jerky and a canteen of water. He combines their hard-won experience with his own deep Kiowa knowledge and the analytical training of the Army. He is becoming something new, a hybrid warrior uniquely suited to this new era of warfare on the plains. The men of the garrison have their own name for him. They call him the General's Ghost. He moves so quietly, so unobtrusively, he can appear at a commander's elbow seemingly from nowhere, offer a quiet piece of advice about an upcoming patrol, and then melt away again. He rarely speaks unless spoken to, but when he does, his words are measured and precise. He has a kind of gravity that belies his youth. He has seen the end of a world, and it has stripped him of all frivolity. He has also earned a reputation for being indispensable. A supply wagon gets a broken axle 20 miles from the fort. Archer knows which stand of trees has the hardest wood for a repair. A dispatch rider gets lost in a sudden blue northern. Archer can find his trail in the blizzard. He is the fort's ultimate problem solver. But he is not yet a scout in the formal sense. He is not on the Army payroll. He is a ward of the state, a domestic dependent. His service is expected, not compensated. He still lives in a state of suspended animation, a man without a people and without a rank. The final step, the final transformation from captive to collaborator, from victim to active participant, has not yet been taken. It will require a test, a moment of crisis where he must consciously choose a side, not for survival, but for a purpose. He is honed, he is trained, he is ready. And General Mackenzie, a patient man who knows the value of a perfectly crafted weapon, is simply waiting for the right moment to deploy him. The moment is coming. Out in the waterless hell of the staked plains, where an entire company of cavalry is about to march towards its thirsty death.
The summer of 1877 is a brutal one. The sun beats down on the southern plains with the force of a blacksmith's hammer, baking the land into a cracked ochre wasteland. The rivers shrink to muddy trickles, and the grasses cure to the color of old bone. It is in this unforgiving season that a rumor sparks through the territory. A small, defiant band of Comanche, led by a charismatic young warrior named Black Horse, has broken from the reservation. They have raided settlements along the Pease River and vanished into the vast, trackless wilderness of the Llano Estacado, the Staked Plains. It is a land of mirages and bitter dust, a tabletop expanse of 30,000 square miles with almost no surface water. To the soldiers at Fort Sill, it is known simply as the Great Thirst. It is a place where columns go to die. General Mackenzie is a man who despises loose ends. The breakout, though small, is an unacceptable challenge to his authority and the finality of his victory at Palo Duro. He assembles a provisional company of his best veterans from the 4th Cavalry, 60 men under the command of a young, ambitious captain named Thaddeus Nolan. Nolan is a good officer by the book, brave, disciplined, and a graduate of West Point. He is also arrogant, convinced of the superiority of military science over what he dismisses as native superstition. His assigned scouts are two grizzled Tonkawas who know the eastern edges of the plains but are hesitant to venture deep into its waterless heart. Mackenzie summons Archer to his office. The maps are spread out, the campaign planned. Captain Nolan will pursue Black Horse onto the Llano, Mackenzie states, his voice flat and devoid of emotion. His scouts are hesitant. They say there is no water between the head of the Double Mountain Fork and Cedar Lake, a 3-day ride in this heat. They say it's a suicide march. He fixes his gaze at Archer, who stands silently before the desk. It is not a question, it is a command for confirmation. Archer looks at the map,